Welcome back. Well, Chris Bowen and his green pipe dream have struck again. A Labor election promise to build hundreds of community batteries to store excess solar power has seen barely a dozen switched on. In fact, it's understood 13 of up to 420 community batteries first promised by Bowen back in 2021 have been completed as, of course, the next federal election looms. Joining me now is Liberal MP Andrew Wallace. Andrew, good to see you. Thank you for joining me. Is this another one of Labor's failed green schemes in its race to net zero? What's going on here?
Well, Danica, over my left shoulder, you'll see a community battery. It's actually the 14th community battery to be built under Bowen's scheme. And you know what? After 1,000 days of promises by Chris Bowen, guess what? This was finished just this afternoon. And it was finished this afternoon. This morning, Ted O'Brien and I stood up and were carrying on about why Labor hadn't built these community batteries, particularly in my electorate. And guess what? This gets set up today. So a bit of a coincidence, you might think. But at the end of the day, the community batteries do play an important role in an overall energy mix. My problem is not with the battery, it's with the more than 1,000 days that it took Labor to deliver on this promise. This was the one and only promise that Labor made for the people of Fisher, only $450,000 worth of commitment. That was it. That's all they were offered at the last election. And it's just funny that they finally get this thing hooked up in the final days before the next election is called.
Yeah, how convenient. The timing to me sounds very suspicious, let me tell you that. Now, I thought it was funny today because Chris Bowen announced today that he actually wants to debate Coalition Energy spokesman Ted O'Brien. And here's what the Prime Minister said about it today.
Get some popcorn shares, because Chris Bowen versus Ted O'Brien in a debate is something that I'll be sitting down having some popcorn on, watching, because this fantasy that Ted O'Brien's on and the coalition's policy will devastate our energy policy.
Well, Andrew, I don't know about you, but I'll be getting my popcorn ready should this debate go ahead, because I, like many of us, would love to hear where that $275 in energy bill relief has gone. I wonder if Bowen will be able to explain that one.
Well, while Australians will be eating their popcorn, Ted O'Brien will be eating Chris for dinner, because Chris Bowen's policy in relation to energy has been an absolute and utter disaster. They promised a $275 price reduction, and Australians have been paying an additional $1,000 in their energy bills. Chris Bowen, may he long have a long political career, because as long as Labor have this bloke on the front bench, he is like a dead weight around their necks. You know, Australians have had an absolute gutful. They know that their cost of living, that their standard of living, their quality of life has dropped significantly over the last 3 years, and it is mainly because of Chris Bowen and his crazy energy policies. We've seen that on, energy bills, power bills up by 32%, gas bills up by 34%. Those things have significant impacts on when you go and pay for meat at the butcher or food from the supermarket. All these significant energy increases has an impost, and mum and dads are paying for it at the checkout.
Yeah, absolutely. They certainly are. Now, before we let you go, Donald Trump appeared not to know what the AUKUS defence pact was when he was asked about it by a reporter today at the White House alongside the UK Prime Minister. Have a look at this.
Will you be discussing AUKUS with the Prime Minister, sir?
What does that mean?
AUKUS, the Australia-US Defence Alliance.
Yeah, well, we'll be discussing that.
Andrew, how do you read this? Was it a mistake, a slip of the tongue?
Well, look, can you imagine how many synonyms that, or acronyms, I should say, that the US president would have to remember? Defence is full of acronyms, always has been, always will be. This is a beat up. The AUKUS agreement between Australia, the UK and the US is an incredibly important arrangement between those three countries, which will ensure the transfer of knowledge in critical defence capabilities in nuclear-powered submarines to Australia, but also in relation to quantum computing, artificial intelligence, so many other things that will benefit all three countries. The fact that, who doesn't get, the odd acronym mixed up from time to time? There's a knowing to it.
No, I completely agree. I think it was a complete beat up. Andrew Wallace, it's nice to catch up. Thanks very much for joining me on the show this evening.
Authorised by Andrew Wallace, LNP, Boccarina, Queensland.